We've now been joined by my JISS colleague, Dr. Eytan Cohen Yanarocak, a native of Turkey. He writes on Turkish affairs at our institute, as well as for the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle East and African Studies at Tel Aviv University. He edits an interesting publication called Turkiscope, which focuses on Turkish affairs. And for us, he's written on contemporary Turkish politics, Turkish national security and foreign policy, as well as, of course, Turkish-Israel relations and the Kurds in Turkey. I think you'll find Dr. Yanarocak's presentation fascinating.
All right. Okay, great. Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me, for having me here. Today I would like to present you the Turkish perspective when we are speaking about the Eastern Mediterranean. First of all, I want you to understand the fundamentals of Turkish foreign policy. In order to understand that, I would like to provide you a historical infrastructure, and then we are going to proceed to today. So, this is the most read newspaper in Turkey, called Hürriyet. As you can see here, it's the famous Johnson letter. It was from 1964. Let me summarize it for you. When the Turks for the first time signaled that they would like to carry out a military operation against Cyprus, so then President of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, warned the Turks in order not to carry such an operation. Then he managed to stop Turks, but in 1974, as we can see here, the Turkish soldiers they did carry out this extraterritorial military intervention, and they began to occupy the northern portions of Cyprus, which later paved the way for the establishment of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Of course, this state is only recognized today by Turkey, and according to international law, it is void. But still, its effect on the ground, and we cannot, of course, ignore this fact on the ground. And traditionally, this Cyprus issue and the Turkish-Greek frictions in the Aegean continental shelf, they basically formed the main Turkish foreign policy concerns regarding Greece and Cyprus. In 2011, when the Noble Energy Company managed to discover this Aphrodite Block 12 in the Eastern Mediterranean, we can say that this traditional games, the rules of this traditional game began to change. So, in this regard, as you can also see here, we do see some natural gas areas like Aphrodite, like Leviathan, Tamar, Zor. So we can say that this natural gas began to act as a new common denominator between the Eastern Mediterranean states, right? Egypt, Israel, Cyprus, and this basically paved the way for the signing of delimitation agreements between these states. But this natural gas was not the only common denominator. In this regard, the neo-Ottomanist Turkish foreign policy, which is perceived as a very antagonist foreign policy in these capitals, also served as an important common denominator between these states, so that they found themselves as natural partners. Let me summarize you this Turkish foreign policy. Here is the architect of this policy. This is President Erdogan's spokesperson, Ibrahim Kalın. And he's summarizing it as değerli yalnızlık in Turkish, which means the precious loneliness or splendid isolation. But that's how they are using the term. They are translating this term into English as precious loneliness. It means that this Turkish neo-Ottomanist point of view shuns the considerations and imperatives of realpolitik. But not only that, according to this worldview, which is designed according to Islamic ideals, is pushing Turkey into a new crossroads where they need to feel the necessity to downgrade their relations with immoral states. When we are speaking about immoral states, what do we mean? Immoral states mean like Israel, which is conducting military operations against the Gaza Strip. Immoral state is like Abdel Fattah el-Sisi's Egypt, which is governed by Abdel Fattah el-Sisi thanks to a military takeover in 2013. Another important immoral state, of course, is Bashar al-Assad's Syria because of this civil war. So as a result, we came to see that this Turkish foreign policy, this neo-Ottoman Turkish policy, is shaping the country's future. And of course, when we are speaking about the Turkish neo-Ottomanist foreign policy, we cannot ignore the most important newspaper of Turkey today, the horn of the government, the Yeni Şafak newspaper. As you can see here, it's written here, the axis of evil in the Eastern Mediterranean. Doğu Akdeniz'de şer ittifakı. So, Israel, Egypt, Greece, and Cyprus found themselves as natural partners. We said that. But Turkey tries to change the mind of the decision makers of these four countries. So it is basically adopting a rather an ambivalent policy. While trying to, for example, in September 9th, Erdogan made it very clear that the most profitable route for carrying out this Eastern Mediterranean pipeline is via Turkey. And he said that he is ready to cooperate with the regional states. On the other hand, his foreign minister, Mevlut Çavuşoğlu, made it very clear that Turkey will not let the Eastern Mediterranean countries to ignore the Turkish Cypriot and Turkish interests in the region. So we are seeing here a very ambivalent policy. So why do Turks would like to participate in this venture? They would like to create an interdependency. And with this interdependency, they will try to reduce the capacity to withstand Turkish pressures on the matters like Cyprus and the Gaza Strip. As you know, unfortunately, here in Israel, we are having some border issues, some rocket attacks we are experiencing from Gaza Strip. So we have to retaliate. But in this case, let's assume that we're going to have this pipeline with Turkey. So Turkey may think to pressure us by closing the taps of this pipeline. So Israeli decision makers should think twice. Maybe it is profitable, but in terms of policy, will it be in Israel's interest or not? That's the crucial question. The same is also applicable for Cyprus. Now the Cypriot Republic of Cyprus, the Southern Cypriot Republic, as they say in Turkish, they have a superiority in international law. But in this kind of a new interdependent Middle East, so we may think that we may see that Turks will able to pressure all these four capitals, including Cairo, Jerusalem, Nicosia, and Athens. Now I would like to mention about the Turkish energy hub policy. As you can see here in the map, from Turkey is attracting, as you know, its position is fascinating. It's a natural bridge between East and the West, so it can get all the pipelines from East and it can transfer them easily to the West. Here we are seeing the Blue Stream, the Baku-Tbilisi-Erzurum pipeline, as the previous speakers already mentioned, the Turkish Stream, the Trans-Anatolian natural gas pipeline. And imagine that here we're going to have another pipeline to Turkey, and from there to Greece, and from there to Italy. So this is the Turkish dream that they would like to make it even stronger, even more ambitious, right? So let's speak about the territorial water issues. Here you can see a map that I got from my Cypriot friends from Prios Cyprus Institute, that this area, this purple area, is claimed by Turkey, which means Turkey does not recognize the Greek Cypriot administration's or Republic of Cyprus's map of the blocks 1, 4, 5, 6, and 7. According to the Turkish thesis, they belong to the Turkish constitutional shelf, continental shelf, excuse me, Turkish continental shelf, which means if the Greek Cypriots will do any drills there, it's a casus belli for the Turkish government. And of course, as you can see here, we do see that in 2011, the Cypriots already published their map. But this map, as I already told here, 1, 7, 6, 5, and 4, they are disputed according to the Turkish thesis. And here you see A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These A, B, C, D, E, F, G are the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus's map. Of course, since this republic does not exist according to international law, so Republic of Cyprus does not recognize it. But from the Turkish point of view, what we can understand is their core problem is not wealth. Their core problem is the sovereignty. Okay? So in this regard, the Turks would like to emphasize that they, as a member of the island, they do have a right on the natural gas that it is found in the southern part of the island. But according to the same international law, we know that the existence of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is a violation of international law, but that's another issue, right? Another important issue is, according to the Greek thesis, we have here a tiny island, Castellorizo, and here we have Rhodes, right? So according to the Greek thesis, as you can see, the Turkish continental shelf and territorial waters were shrinked dramatically. But please look at the Turkish one. Now you can see the Turkish. First, the core difference you can see here in Cyprus. In the west of Cyprus, this is the Cypriot map. This is the Turkish map. They even may not swim there, right? Here, Castellorizo is located inside as a new enclave in the Turkish territorial waters, okay? Because Castellorizo does not have any continental shelf according to the Turkish thesis. So, what I'm trying to say, Eastern Mediterranean, Cyprus, is not the only issue. Castellorizo and Rhodes is also very important in this issue. So, how the Turks are trying to persuade their opponents in this matter? They would like to emphasize that they are strengthening their own navy and seismic ship fleet. This is the previous Turkish seismic ship called Piri Reis, which was later modernized with the new one, the Barbaros Hayrettin Pasha. As you can see, in 2017, this Barbaros Hayrettin Pasha was dispatched to the region, to Eastern Mediterranean. Not only that, of course, the Turkish Navy is also accompanying this seismic ship. I would like to speak about the national arms project of the Turkish armed forces. Here you can see the project Milgem, which is the acronym of Milli Gemi, the national warship. This is for the first time in 2011. The first ship called Heybeliada was added to the inventory of the Turkish armed forces. It is also considered as the ghost ship because it can evade radar detection. And later, in 2013 and 2016 and in 2017, three more frigates, three more warships were added to the Turkish armed forces inventory. And of course, we can feel and we can see the existence of the Turkish fleet, of the Turkish Navy in the Eastern Mediterranean. Okay, no problem. In October 2018, we already witnessed a maritime dogfight in the Eastern Mediterranean next to the west side of the Cyprus. So this, of course, triggered Mr. Erdogan to deliver a very hawkish statement I would like to cite: "We will never accept the attempts to hijack the natural resources of the Eastern Mediterranean while excluding our country and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. We have no ambitions on the territories of other states. Those who ignore Turkey and think that they can take unilateral steps in the Eastern Mediterranean and the Aegean Sea began to understand that they made a huge mistake. As with the terrorists who defeated by us in Syria, we will not let these maritime bandits act against us." So what we can understand here, it's a new brinkmanship policy, as we already saw it in the past in 1996 in Kardak in Turkish, or in Imya Islands in the Aegean Sea. So let me sum up. This is the flag of the Annan Plan. As you may remember, in 2004, the Annan Plan was rejected, right? Then we got this accession of the Republic of Cyprus to European Union. From Turkish point of view, this is a humiliation. And this is, let me say, it triggered again the mistrust towards the West. And in the recent years, Erdogan, he understood that his reputation is deteriorating in the West, especially after the Gezi Park protests. So whenever it is necessary, Mr. Erdogan is engaging in a new political crisis with non-Muslim states. Let me give you some examples: United States, Holland, Germany, Russia, China, of course, Israel, Armenia, Greece, right? So why? Because it's payoff. You know, in Turkey we have relations. So Mr. Erdogan had turned the Turkish foreign policy into his PR, into his public relations. So he understands that whenever there is a friction between a non-Muslim state and with Turkey, so he can translate this friction into a political approval at the ballot box. So let me show you another example. This is a sort of a science fiction book. It's called Operation David, okay? Davut Harekatı. The most, you know, you may take it seriously, not seriously. When I was living in Turkey in the first years of 2000s, I did observe that the Turkish popular culture was focusing on a possible war between United States and Turkey. Now, the same popular culture is focusing on a possible war between Israel and Turkey. And why am I talking about this? Because according to this scenario and according to other imaginary YouTube videos, the most important theater, the starting point of this war is the Eastern Mediterranean. From the Turkish eyes, the Greek Cypriots and Greeks are using Israel as a shield against Turkey. Believe it or not, okay? So here we have two options. Or Turkey will make a very important adjustment in its foreign policy, meaning that they will launch a genuine normalization. When I'm talking about the genuine normalization, it means that this bashing of Israel and Egypt especially should end in the eyes of the public. Okay? And later, if they are willing to launch a peace process with the Cypriots, it's perfectly fine. Then we may go to a prosperous, genuine normalization, and then Turkey may also find itself as a genuine partner in this venture. But, yeah, I'm finishing. But one more sentence and I'm done, seriously. But now what I'm seeing today is, since Mr. Erdogan is using all these diplomatic tensions for his good in the domestic Turkish policy, so I think this brinkmanship policy will continue. And thank you very much for having me and for your patience, especially to you, David.